6:30. I think we'll call this meeting to order. I see that Representative Bateman made the front page of the paper today. Was it an X?
Well, they had him on talk shows and everything.
Yeah. Well, if I could write like that, I probably would make the front page as well. But I guarantee, I learned cursive, but you'd never call what I write cursive. We're excited to continue today with our Higher Ed Week, and particularly excited to have President Dunlap here with us. President Dunlap is new to North Idaho College, and we would love to get a little bit of your background as well, and as well as the presentation. We do have a PowerPoint in our folders, and it's my understanding that we'll be following that PowerPoint. Is that correct?
We will now, Chairman.
Excellent, excellent. Well, President, it's a pleasure to have you here, and look forward to your response.
Thank you, Chairman DeMordaunt, and thank you, representatives and members of the House Education Committee. It's a pleasure to be here, and on behalf of the students and faculty and trustees of North Idaho College, thank you for having us. I want to give you some background about North Idaho College, about where we've been, what we're doing, and what some of our priorities are. North Idaho College was established in 1933. It's the oldest community college in the state of Idaho, and it resides in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is now part of the Banana Belt. When we came down here, we thought we were going to move to warmer weather, and we were surprised with the temperatures here in Boise. But again, it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to introduce to you some of the folks from North Idaho College, and in particular, our trustees. Today we have with us, let me see here, Judy Meyer, who is our vice chair for the trustees. We have our two newest members, Ron Nilsson, who is CEO of Grand Force Manufacturing. We have Todd Banducci, who is president of Falcon Investment and Insurance Company. And Ken Howard, our chair, is here, and he will be arriving shortly. And so with that, I also want to introduce one other individual, and that's Kathy O'Brien. And Kathy is president of our faculty, and she is here and represents the faculty voice. And so I would encourage you to talk to her if you're interested in hearing about faculty-related issues. So thanks for being here, Kathy. Well, this year we've had some fairly significant changes, particularly in the leadership at North Idaho College, and it's not just with my arrival. We've hired 4 vice presidents. We've stolen Graydon Stanley from CSI. He decided to move to the warm part of the state, and Graydon is our vice president for student services. I think most of you know Mark Browning, who used to work with the State Board for Higher Education, and we're very pleased to have him. Lita Burns is our new vice president for instruction. And then in addition to that, we hired a new dean of health services and nursing, a new executive director for human resources, and a new director for our aerospace and outreach programs. Well, North Idaho College is a comprehensive community college, and what that means is that it embraces the traditional 5 missions of the community college. And those include the transfer, preparing students to transfer to a 4-year institution. It includes professional technical education. It includes continuing education, as well as adult basic education and customized training. At North Idaho College, we have 42 transfer degree programs that prepare students to transfer to the 4-year institutions. And in our higher education campus, we have LCSC and University of Idaho as partners, and they reside in that higher education campus. Currently, we have approximately 500 students that have transferred to LCSC and have the ability to obtain that bachelor's degree without ever having to leave Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The average age of our student is 27. The mix of our students is 40% male and 60% female. And last year, we awarded 468 Associate of Science degrees, 78 Associate of Arts degrees, 86 Associate of Applied Science degrees, and 407 certificates, as well as 493 GEDs. If you look at the regional impact that North Idaho represents, our service area is the 5 northern counties, and we have outreach centers in Bonners Ferry, in Sandpoint, as well as the Silver Valley. And in those locations, we offer transfer programs. We have been asked to provide career and professional technical programs. And we also offer adult basic education as well as Head Start programs. And we also sponsor the Area Agency on Aging. And if you look at the chart that shows the number of students that we've touched in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see we've touched approximately 20,000 students in the northern counties of Idaho. Okay, go ahead. The economic impact that North Idaho College represents is $164 million throughout the region. And this was a study conducted by EMSI, which is a Moscow located organization that does economic modeling. And based on this study, which is very comprehensive, they indicated that students receive a 16.1% return on the education that they invest in, and that for every tax dollar spent, there's a return of $1.5 to the community. And so we are a significant employer in the northern region and present a significant economic impact for that area as well. The enrollment figures I have broken down into the different missions that we have. The total credits that the total head count in terms of the number of students served is 6,574, and that represents 4,000 plus in full-time equivalent students. And you'll see that our transfer students, the general studies, over 5,000 students. And then our professional technical is 823 students that we touch. Now on dual credit, we've increased that 50% last year, and we're on track to increase that 50% again this year. We have been a Johnny-come-lately, if you will, in the dual credit arena, and so that is an area that we feel is extremely important to provide those early collegiate opportunities for our students. This year, we will have 32 students that receive their AA degree as well as their high school diploma on the very same day. What a wonderful opportunity for those students and for those families. Now, the distance learning that you see where we've served over 5,000 students is very important. And then our Workforce Training Center offers non-credit programs. Now, the three areas that we believe present the greatest growth opportunity for North Idaho College are through our outreach centers, our distance learning program, and our dual credit programs. If you look at the enrollment in Idaho community colleges over the past several years, you'll see there has been a significant increase. And for the first time, 50% of the students enrolled in higher education attend community colleges. The growth rate is right at 49% for the head count. North Idaho College experienced during this time period 46% growth rate. At the same time, we had a decline of 14% in state funding, and tuition went up a little over 50% for our students. Now, while we are still the biggest bang for the buck in higher education, the burden has begun to shift onto our students, as you are well aware. And during this same period, the population growth in Idaho has only been at 8.1%. Now, part of the enrollment growth is beginning to level off, and that's a national trend. However, it does not apply for our professional technical programs. We have enormous waiting lists for every one of our 39 professional technical programs, and that's in part due to a lack of capacity. Our facilities are extremely old, and we can only accommodate 12 to 15 students per lab, where we should be serving 20 to 24 students per lab. And so building a new career and technical facility in the future will become our #1 priority. If you look at the number of dollars allocated to universities and colleges versus the community colleges, you can see that we are a fairly efficient organization. We receive roughly a third of what the four-year institutions receive in terms of state funding. And I'll show you a slide in a minute that represents where our sources of funding come from. But this is a significant difference. The budget that we requested for fiscal year 14 includes the benefit costs and inflationary adjustments and enrollment workload adjustments, and those are part of a formula that is developed by the State Board for Higher Education. And you can see that a few of those items have been recommended in the governor's budget, such as the $75,000 for the benefit costs, although that does not cover the entire cost of benefit increases. You'll notice that the discretionary items, the line items that we requested, those areas were not recommended in the governor's budget, and I'll explain a little bit more about those in just a moment. We requested $352,000 for dual credit, and I mentioned earlier that that is a major area of emphasis and expansion for us. And the funding for dual credit includes staffing to get to the appropriate level based on the demand, to be able to provide mentorship for the high school instructors so that the instruction they receive in the high school is identical in terms of quality and in terms of the curriculum that they would receive at the community college. We also are asking for $302,000 for our Sandpoint Center. And this fall, we moved into a new facility in Sandpoint, which allowed us to increase our capacity. And it's a spectacular facility. It's the old high school that has been renovated, and it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. We now have the ability, with the exception of one class, to offer the entire AA degree in Sandpoint. So a student wouldn't have to leave Sandpoint to achieve that AA degree, except we don't have a science lab so that they can take the required 2 lab science courses. And so part of this funding will be for staffing that facility as well as for equipment and remodel. And with that wet science lab, we will have the ability to offer the AA degree, and then through our 4-year partners, such as LCSC, we envision in the near future, a year or 2 out, beginning to offer bachelor level courses in the Sandpoint area, with the goal that a student would never have to leave Sandpoint to achieve a bachelor's degree. We're asking for $96,000 for our Veterans Center. As you know, there are many, many veterans returning from the wars, and they need some special attention. They've earned special attention, and the purpose of this is to provide a coordinator and a staff assistant, as well as some computers that will help those individuals adjust and provide them the support that they need to be successful returning back to college. And then lastly, we are asking for $528,000 for a one-stop student services shop to support our students. Currently, our student services is located in a number of different locations on campus, and that includes things such as financial aid, the registration, enrollment, counseling, and advising, student accounts, and to be able to consolidate that into one facility provides a very desirable initiative for our students, so they don't have to wander across campus to receive those support services. Okay. Now, when you look at our sources of funding, it really boils down to a third from tuition, a third from the state general fund, which includes the professional technical funding, and then a third from our county property tax levy. And the way that breaks out is that $9.8 million come from the general fund, roughly. $4 million comes from professional technical funding, and that does not cover the entire cost of professional technical instruction, although that's the intent of that separate stream of funding. And we supplement or subsidize professional technical instruction to the tune of about $1 million per year. The county property tax generates about $14.8 million, and then out-of-county tuition and state liquor tax distribution is about $1.2 million, and that is a particularly contentious issue with all the community colleges. And the way that works is that if a student attends a community college that does not reside within the taxing district, then the county from which that student comes from pays the college $500 out of their state liquor distribution fund. So it's $500 per semester per student for a total of $3,000 over the life of that student, and that excludes professional technical students. And so when you look at that formula that was developed in 1982, it does not adequately cover the costs for those students coming from out of state. And then when you look at our regional outreach centers that happen to reside outside of our taxing district, it presents tension because the taxpayers want to know why we are providing services outside of the taxing district, when in effect the legislature has said and charged us with providing access and education to Idaho citizens in the northern 5 counties. That's an issue with all 3 community colleges. North Idaho College is the only college that has 1 county as its tax district, while we're serving a total of 5. Okay. Well, when we look for alternative funding sources, I'm going to talk about some projects that we have ongoing, but one of the things that is important for us is the fact that this nation has reached the highest level ever for student indebtedness. It has reached $1 trillion, and it exceeds the total credit card debt within this country. And what has typically happened is that as the cost of education has increased, more students access the financial aid system, and you can see that last year we awarded $49 million in financial aid. Now, for some students, they're awarded the financial aid and then they disappear. So we have changed the system under the guidance of Graydon Stanley. And what we have done is we are not awarding 100% of the financial aid at the beginning of a semester. It will be awarded over the course of the semester based on satisfactory student progress. In addition, students are required to take a mini course or a workshop on financial planning so that they understand the gravity of accepting the financial aid and that it's not to fund their new car, but it's to help them with their living expenses as well as their tuition. The College Foundation provided $704,000 in scholarships to students to augment their needs. And the College Foundation is currently endowed at $17.7 million. A couple projects that have generated some revenue for the college that are unique and very important to us are the Avista Center for Entrepreneurship as well as the Aerospace Center of Excellence. The Avista Center for Entrepreneurship was developed from a program of entrepreneurship funded by Avista at Spokane Community College. And over the past 4 years, that has been so highly successful that Avista has decided to export that program to 4 other community colleges, North Idaho College being one of those. And the funding they have provided is $100,000 for each adopter college, as well as putting on the table $500,000 in microloan funds so that the more promising projects that the entrepreneurs have may have access to some small seed money to get that up and running. And the purpose of this is that Avista believes that one way to grow the economy is through entrepreneurs, because 90% of the businesses in this country have 50 employees or less. Excuse me. And so the belief is that we can grow entrepreneurs within our local areas. Another program that we have taken advantage of is the Federal Department of Labor had a trade adjustment community college training RFP this past year, and we applied for that to support the aerospace industry in North Idaho. And most individuals aren't aware that there's much aerospace in North Idaho. But we have, for example, Cygnus Aviation, Tamarack Aviation, Quest Aviation, Aeroset Aviation, Atlas Springs, and a number of others. Those companies manufacture parts. One company builds aircraft, and so it's an emerging industry cluster. We were notified in October that we received $2.9 million to support that effort, and that includes developing an aircraft assemblers program, conducting classes on non-destructive testing, and improving our advanced manufacturing programs. And so we are very pleased with those alternate sources of funding that support the business and industry within North Idaho. In addition, I've spoken with the CEOs of the major hospitals in North Idaho and looked at the healthcare industry in terms of what their needs may be. And you can see that there's a physical therapist assistant program, and that's being done in a collaboration between the 3 community colleges and LCSC, and we are going through the accreditation process right now to receive candidacy status. We also just completed accreditation for our medical assistant program, and that program is one that is in great demand, and it has been expressed that there will also be a huge demand in the next 1 to 2 years for medical lab technicians, as well as billing and coding specialists, and so we are looking at putting those programs in place as well. In summary, North Idaho College is Idaho's oldest community college, and we serve a very large and mostly rural service area. We have one county, as I mentioned, that serves as our tax base, which presents enormous tensions when trying to serve all 5 counties. Our enrollment has followed the national trends with the exception of our professional technical, and we have, as I mentioned, enormous waiting lists due to capacity issues. And you may also be aware that KTEC, the Kootenai Area Technical Center, is a K-12 professional technical facility in Kootenai County. They had enormous demand this past year, which was their first year in operation. And they planned for about 280 students. They had 1,000 students apply, and they put on an extra shift and are serving over 500 students. Now, those students will graduate in about 4 months, and the question is, where will they go? And with the waiting lists that we have in our professional technical programs, there will be a bottleneck. And so that is becoming, as I mentioned, our number one priority is to try and solve that dilemma. I also mentioned dual credit is growing, and we expect to see significant increase in those areas. And then there's an unprecedented level of collaboration between NIC, CSI, and CWI. The presidents meet regularly, as well as the chair of the trustees for those institutions. And we have been working on several different initiatives that include the Voluntary Framework of Accountability, which is a tracking system for students so that we can speak the same language, gather the same data, and then tell a common story so that we can measure ourselves with our other institutions. And I think that will be very helpful for the legislature so that you can compare apples to apples. In addition, we're working on standardizing how we deliver dual credit in the state, and there are several other initiatives as well, but there's a very high level of cooperation between these three institutions. I mentioned the out-of-district funding formula, which has been a major issue, and hope that there can be some attention given to that as well. And lastly, I want to say, Chairman DeMordaunt, thank you very much for the opportunity to address the House Education Committee, and I would thank the representatives on behalf of our students, faculty, and trustees. The last slide I want to point out represents that North Idaho College does not employ a lobbyist. And Mark Browning and myself are the two representatives that will work with you directly on any issue that you need assistance with. Thank you very much.
President, thank you so much. This is wonderful. I really enjoyed learning about this. Open it up now to the committee for any questions that you may have of President Dunlap. Representative Wills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Dunlap, one thing that it's not a lot, but it seems to have a terrific impact on the employees themselves. I notice on inflationary costs aren't much, but CEC, the request for that, which of course the governor isn't, a gentleman on the second floor isn't requesting anything on that, but how much of an impact does that have being so close to Washington for your employees? Would you, of the comparison between Washington and Idaho, is that going to erode some of those, have some of those impacts on that from Washington and or Montana?
Yeah.
President?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chair, Representative Wills, I'm not familiar with the change in employment specifically. There is a difference in salaries between the Washington and Idaho border. We have made great strides over the last several years to raise the salaries of employees at North Idaho College, and I believe that we are close to parity with other areas, but not quite there yet. And that has been a major emphasis because we have a lot of, we have had in the past, a lot of employees that migrate to Washington, to the Spokane area and other areas for employment. And actually now we're seeing individuals coming back across the border, and I'm probably a very good example of that. And I'm not sure if that specifically answers your question, Representative Wills.
Mr. Chairman, I think it does, and I'm really glad to hear that because I know just a few short years ago there was a huge parity difference between the Washington and Idaho, and so I'm really glad to see that that's cut down considerably. And I applaud you, sir, and the board on the forward-thinking things that you have up here. This has really impressed me today for the North Idaho College. That's really an instrument up there that's of great benefit to the community, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Representative Wills.
Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, I'm somewhat concerned that the governor did not include any money for dual credit. And I don't understand the thinking there because my thinking of dual credit is this. If the kids in high school can earn an associate's degree while they're still in high school or at least 1 year of college, Idaho's share on that level, K through 12, is only about $7,000. When it comes to higher ed, and I'm not sure if this applies to community colleges, that figure's closer to 11, maybe even $12,000. And so Idaho stands to net a gain by having more dual credit going on. Was that argument used?
President?
Mr. Chair, Representative Nielsen, absolutely. And if you look at the Complete College Idaho initiative that was unveiled this past July, that has a goal of 60% of Idahoans between the age of 25 and 35 achieving a degree or certificate by the year 2020, and you understand that currently that demographic has 31% that has achieved that status. We have a long way to go, and one of the quickest ways to get there would be to improve dual credit in this state. And that's why I mentioned that it is one of our top 3 priorities with regard to increasing enrollment and increasing access and opportunity for those students. And so the arguments have been made in terms of Complete College Idaho, in terms of the cost effectiveness, in terms of the way it serves our citizenry, and the early collegiate opportunities that are afforded those individuals. And as I mentioned, having students achieve an AA degree as well as a high school diploma on the same day is really a remarkable head start for those individuals.
Thank you, President. Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Dunlap, I'm just curious about transferability of credits. Do you, among the 3 community colleges, will all the credits transfer equally?
Mr. Chair, Representative Clark, I can't say with a surety that 100% of the credits will transfer across the board, but we have been making great strides with our our articulation agreements. A very good example of that is that we have LCSC and University of Idaho residing on the same higher education campus in Coeur d'Alene. And we have over 500 students attending LCSC with a transfer degree. And so in talking with the other 2 presidents yesterday, as a matter of fact, both of them believe that articulation in this state has improved significantly. Now, the other end of that spectrum is the articulation between K-Tech, that professional technical facility that is a K-12 asset in Kootenai County, to make sure that that curriculum transfers into the community college. And so that's even one level difference in terms of transferability. But in general, most of the credits between the community colleges, if a student went from here to CSI or CWI, would transfer. And I feel very good about where we are with our articulation agreements and our transferability.
Representative Gideus.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Dunlap, just as a point of information, I'll brag to the committee that my daughter is a graduate of North Idaho College, and I will provide you with a little bit of information, Representative Clark and Dr. Dunlap, that my daughter went on to WSU and all her credits were accepted, and except for one that she had a challenge, but as soon as she challenged it and explained the title of the course, she was fine with them. So I applaud you on trying to meet that need and make sure those credits are transferable, and you did a great job. And by the way, she loved that school. So.
Thank you.
Representative Gestrin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Dunlap, I just have a question concerning property taxes. I know how that issue's been around for a long time. I've heard that discussion for the last 20-some years. Are there any proposals out there on how to make that more equitable? I am sure that the taxpayers in those other 4 counties are not going to go to the poll and vote to pay more property taxes to support, maybe they will. However, have you heard of any proposals on how to make that more equitable?
Between the three community colleges, we have had considerable discussions about that along with our chairs. And we have not put forth a formal proposal, and it was suggested to us yesterday by the Senate Education Committee that we work with the Council on for county commissioners and come together with some form of a joint proposal. And so I think what you'll discover is that we will look at putting some sort of a proposal together, but we still need to sort through that and come up with something that would be viable for all parties.
Excellent. President, I have a question or two. First of all, maybe a comment. I was so appreciative of the statistic you gave on your return of investment, 16.1%. That's fantastic. And I asked a similar question of President Velas, Idaho State, and they didn't have an answer. And so I would love it if you would share your formula, how you calculated that with him, because I think all of our universities ought to be able to have those kind of numbers at hand and say, this is what our students are getting. This is the kind of return on investment they're getting. That was excellent. My next comment and then my question. As I've looked at our community college systems, I see an opportunity in the market. You've probably heard of, I think the acronym is MOOC, but it stands for Massive Online Courses, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's institutions like the Stanfords of the world that kind of jumped on this thing, right? Yep. And I actually signed up for one of the classes, but you can't get credit for it, right? It's just to learn. I see that our community colleges could really, and it sounds like you're already working together across the board with the other community colleges, offer for credit these massive online classes. Anyway, just a thought, and it sounds like you're already on it. Why don't you go ahead and comment?
Thank you, Chairman DeMordaunt. Let me tell you what we're doing with regard to that at North Idaho College. The MOOCs that have been described are massive online open-ended courses. The largest course ever taught had 160,000 students in it in one course, and it was taught by a professor from Berkeley. So Berkeley, Harvard, and MIT got together and formed an organization called edX to offer these courses online. And it poses enormous opportunity depending on how the end structure results. So I have gone to our faculty president and asked her and our vice president of learning to assess these MOOCs with the eye in mind that could we offer credit for those if it met a need. So we are in the process of doing that at North Idaho College, and I, to set the example, went ahead and signed up for a chemistry course from MIT. That starts on the 5th of February. I'm now having some reservations about that, but it'll allow me to converse with my son who has a master's degree in chemistry. So there's a motivation there, but we are on that initiative. We are evaluating it, and then we will make some decisions beginning next year about those MOOCs.
Excellent. I'm so impressed that you're already thinking about that and leading the way. I think there's a huge opportunity out there for our kids in our state. I mean, we know that we're a diverse state geographically, and what a great opportunity to just plug these kids in, even dual credit. Yep. You know, really is. Okay. I'm going to let Representative Nielsen have a question, and I'm going to have one more after that, all right? Unless the committee has...
Well, I have a couple of areas, but, excuse me, but one of those has to do with transferability. Mm-hmm. I'll use the example of CSI. What's the name of that? Yogurt? Chobani? Chobani. Mm-hmm. They came to town, and I talked with Dr. Beck yesterday about that and what their connection was and if they had, and he said, all 400 of those employees had come to CSI for some class learning, such as safety and those types of things. Do those particular courses that you supply to the local businesses to help them out in their employees and having employees, should we say, trained enough to enter into their workforce, et cetera, do those courses need to be transferable, or are they transferable?
They don't need to be transferable, and most of those courses are short-term courses. Some may lead to a certificate program, but in general, most employers we find don't care whether they carry credit or not. They just want the employers or the employees to receive that training so there's a benefit for their particular business. We have the option of awarding credit, but that carries a different tuition rate, or we can do it for non-credit. And it really boils down to what the business wants.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman. So in those particular cases, a certificate of
Completion.
Of completion or something of that is issued so that the employer knows that they've got training in that particular area.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative Nielsen, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
If he allows, I have another question, but I'll wait.
Last one. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, on the one student stop center, was you asking for, this is a dual question, was you asking for in that $500 and some odd thousand, I believe it was, is this to be a facility that you want to create where you have this one stop? And if that's the case, I suppose you got plans to use the office space and the other space that would be freed up for other uses. Was that in your pitch to the governor that you need this other space and et cetera? Or am I barking up the wrong tree?
Mr. Chair, Representative Nielsen, yes. The intent is to consolidate those student services on campus. A large portion of our ask is to do a remodel that will allow for student flow and a centralized desk where the students can come in and receive all the services they need. The relocation of some of those services will go from our student center over to where our business office and those type of activities take place. And that will free up some critical space in the student center. We have need to expand, and I mentioned the Veteran Center. We have a need to expand our advising. We have a need to expand our Native American advising area and club services. So, yes, it includes all of that.
Thank you.
President, again, thank you so much. The last question I has to do with remediation. What are your statistics on your incoming freshmen and the remediation requirements?
Chairman DeMordaunt, I don't have those statistics in front of me. We can provide those to you, but there are some things that we are doing with regard to remediation that we believe are making a significant difference. One of the programs that we've put in place is called the iBest program. And the iBest program was started in Washington State, and it integrates adult basic education learning with professional technical learning. And so you have two instructors that teach the students, and they learn both simultaneously, whereas adult basic education normally has been taught separate, and a student has to jump through a number of hoops, and then when they've completed that, they move on to their career and technical programs or the transfer programs. Well, the iBest program integrates that. And I spoke with one of the classes here a few weeks ago, and they were unbelievably complimentary about the effect that the combination of adult basic education and professional technical had on them. The retention rates in those programs are much higher than they are with a singular ABE class or a professional technical class. And so a good example would be a welding class where a student comes in, takes adult basic education, some remedial math and that sort of thing that is contextualized with regard to that professional technical instruction that they are receiving. In addition, there is an organization, another free online educational organization called the Khan Academy, Khan. And we use that for remediation in some of our professional technical programs, particularly in the math area. It's self-paced instruction. It's very, very good. It doesn't cost the student a cent. And so we're making some strides in that area as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. President, appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here with us. Mark, always good to see you as well. So next on our agenda, we have the opportunity to hear from President Fernandez from Lewis and Clark. And while President Fernandez is coming to the podium, just a personal story here. My mother, well after she'd gotten me out of the house, decided she wanted to finish up her teaching degree. And so she actually went to Lewis and Clark and had a great experience finishing up her teaching degree there. And so there's a fondness, at least in her heart, for your institution. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. While we're loading up the PowerPoint that I want to present to you, I want to thank you for allowing us to give you a little bit of information and introduction to some of you who don't know about Lewis Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho. And before I do that, I would like to introduce some of the folks that have come with me today to help with this presentation in case I cannot answer some of the questions you may have. First of all, our Vice President for Administration, Mr. Chet Herbst, who will be acting as the mouse on that's his term, not mine. We also have Mary Flores, our Dean of Academic Programs. We also have Carmen Simone, who is our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. We have two students with us today, Amy Nelms and Sam Carlson, who are in our student government. And I'm going to excuse them because I know they have classes later this afternoon and they need to get back to Lewiston. And they've heard me talk enough times that they know what I'm going to say. So I'm not only going to excuse you, I'm going to tell you to get to class. So, also, we have Kathy Martin, our Dean of Community Programs and Government Relations. And we have Andy Hansen, our Vice President for Student Affairs, with us today. And I think that's about everybody that's here today. They are, I'm sure I speak for them and all the faculty and staff at Lewis Clark State College in thanking you for allowing us to speak to you today. Well, Lewis Clark State College was founded in 1893. I think a few people are aware of that around the state. It is the building that you see in the old photograph still stands, and we do think that building, Reed Centennial Hall, is perhaps the oldest building, public supported building in Idaho that is still functioning for its original purpose. And of course, the latest addition is Sacagawea Hall that I indicate there that we are so grateful to the state. And I know that the citizens of North Idaho are very, very grateful because that houses our nursing program, our rad tech program, and it is state-of-the-art. That facility is used by more than Lewis Clark State College. Idaho State University's nurse practitioner program uses the simulation labs that we have in there. The anatomy and physiology labs are used by some of the DO school students that are in the area, and so on and so forth. So this is a great addition, and we thank the state of Idaho for supporting us in that endeavor. Our role and mission is very well stated in Idaho Code. We are a regional state college. We are a four-year institution. We offer both associate and baccalaureate degrees. We also have a large professional technical education component to our mission. And, of course, we have the liberal arts and sciences and other areas that we can respond to on a regional basis for industry and for health-related issues. We can respond in other ways. We like to say our role and mission is three-part. We connect learning to life in three ways: through our academic programs, through our professional technical programs, and through our community programs. And I'll try to fill in those broad descriptions as I go along. Our primary emphasis areas, the areas that we provide most of our resources, for which we provide most of our resources, are these: the arts and sciences, business, justice studies, nursing, professional technical education, social work, and of course teacher education, because teacher education was the initial reason in 1893 that Lewis Clark State College was founded. And if you look at what Idaho's degree output looks like, and this is the latest data that we have from IPEDS, you can see that the vast majority of degrees that are offered by Idaho's both public and private institutions are associate and bachelor's degrees. So we are part of that very substantial bottom of the pyramid that supports, that is the foundation of higher education in the state of Idaho. Those of you who have seen this slide before will note that the associate's degree pie has gotten quite big compared to what it was 2 years ago. That is the College of Western Idaho's effect on the number of associate degrees that the state of Idaho is producing. But notice how much associate's and bachelor's degrees contribute to the education, higher education of the state of Idaho. As far as Lewis Clark State College goes, those of you who are on the North Idaho Legislative Tour probably remember this slide. Every county in this picture that has a star in it, we have students enrolled at Lewis Clark State College now. So we do service the needs of not only our region, but students know about Lewis Clark State College from around the state. And if you are from a county that doesn't have a star in it, come see me after this presentation and we'll talk. But we do service students from across the state. Which brings us to our enrollment, and you need to know a little bit about how the numbers are going. Now, this is enrollment for an entire year, so we don't have 2013 up there, but I'll talk about that in a second. But this is the number of students, non-duplicated, that we would have enrolled for the entire year. So it's a little bit more than what you'll see, actually quite a bit more than what you'll see for the fall kinds of numbers that you usually get. But as you can see, we're steadily increasing the number of students that are coming to Lewis Clark State College for both academic programs, that would be biology, the liberal arts and sciences, nursing, those are our academic programs and so on, and our professional technical programs. You can see that we have more academic students, what we call academic students, than we do professional technical students, but we have quite a few professional technical students. And we expect that this year it'll level off a bit. Our pre-college enrollment, you were talking about dual credit, you were talking about concurrent enrollment. These are our numbers. This is for an entire year. And you can see that we have enrolled in any given year, last year, for example, 1,500 high school students taking either tech prep, which would be a professional technical education type course, or academic courses, which would be something like psychology, chemistry, English, mathematics, those type of courses. As you can see, some students in the yellow take both. They will take a professional technical course and an academic course. So we have a dual credit, about 500 students taking academic courses, and as you can see, about 1,000 students would take our technical prep courses that will receive credit if they go into a tech prep curriculum when they come to LCSC or other institutions. And I would add that we think this is a very effective way to get students to go to college, because we have 400 students now at Lewis Clark State College that did take 400 plus students that took either tech prep or pre-college courses. In fact, I think it's probably more than 500 students. And not only us, the University of Idaho has entering its freshman class, the last time I counted, well over 100 students that took LCSC, either tech prep or dual credit courses, and North Idaho College too. So we think this is a success story that we are having these high school students go on to college by taking LCSE in this case, but the other schools do this also, sorts of pre-college courses. If you look at the numbers of student credit hours that we produce, this is another measure of productivity, and I want to emphasize this because I'm going to talk about this in a little bit different light in a little while. Notice that our student credit hour production is steadily increasing, and you can see that it's reached almost 80. It'll probably reach 90,000 student credit hours. All that means is, if you enroll yourself, you're one student for a 3 credit hour course, that's 3 student credit hours. So you take the number of students and the number of credits they're taking, you multiply it, that's what you get. 90,000 student credit hours this past year. Now look at who is teaching those student credit hours. Note that the yellow is our full-time faculty, not TAs and not teaching assistants, but look at the numbers of student credit hours produced by our full-time faculty and look how it's increasing. And I guarantee you the number of faculty we have has not increased. They have come to the plate when it's come to these last few years, when we've had increased enrollments and a lower support, and are teaching more and more, our full-time faculty. And notice the green area. Those are adjunct faculty, part-time faculty. Sometimes an industry expert that we need to teach a particular course, sometimes an English instructor when we need another section of introductory English. But notice the proportion. We don't rely heavily on adjunct instructors. And in fact, this last year, we decreased our reliance on adjunct instructors. And we're trying to keep that as low as we can, and compare that to some other institutions across the nation, and I think we compare very, very well. But note that our existing full-time faculty are working more. This takes us to how many degrees and certificates does Lewis Clark State College offer every year or award every year. Last year, the number of degrees and certificates we awarded were over 770. It's quite a bit for a school our size. Now, some of those are dual degrees. Some people got a certificate and a degree, but still we had about 700 people graduate, 700, and about 70 of them got more than one degree. 700 is quite a bit when you look at the entering freshman class. When you talk about persistence rates and graduation rates, that's important. You should look at those. But what you want to look at is how many people are graduating from our institutions of higher education. This is the basic number as far as I'm concerned. I think this will level off this year. You know, it was quite a bit of a bump last year, but we're doing our share. What kind of student, and if you look at the fall 2012 data, as far as head count, you'll see that we had about 4,500 students as a head count for Lewis Clark State College in the fall. I don't have that comparative data for previous years as I've had before when I talked to you, because the State Board of Education has asked that we change the date when we count, and we don't have historical data from the date that they want. But suffice it to say, we have about 4,500 students at Lewis Clark State College, and that is approximately a 25% increase since fall of 2007, but I can't be more precise than that. Our full-time equivalent head count is about 3,000. Our pre-college enrollment, as I've said earlier, is about 1,000. Our students, a profile of our students, their high school GPA is about a 3.0. Their ACT and SAT scores are there. We have some very well-prepared students who come to Lewis Clark State College, but we also have some students who are not so well-prepared, and we have a large portion of those students. Therefore, we need to take care of those students that are not college-ready, as most people would say, and we accomplish that through our new student orientation programs, which has a central advising component where they are taken to an advisor, and their first 2 years are mapped out for them. And we require a career planning component. Everybody wants to be, maybe a doctor or a lawyer at one time in their life, and we advise them as to what kind of curriculum they need to have to go that route, or we do advise them as to what the career opportunities would be in any particular field they want to go into. But more than that, we do advise them about financial aid, because many of our students do rely on financial aid. And as was said by many of the previous presidents that have given testimony before the committees here, our students are no different. They have financial aid burdens. But we also offer free tutoring, special curriculum on survival skills, and training in basic skills in order to increase our retention rate, but also to increase the numbers of students that complete. We do this without sacrificing quality. And I stress this. We do not sacrifice quality. And how do we measure our quality? We give national examinations to all of our students in specialized areas, and to every student in every 3 years in the basic areas of general education. For our specialized areas and our business students, they score in the latest tests that they've taken above the national average in all areas. And there's about 9 areas: marketing, accounting, international. Our nurses pass 89, 90%. Our rad techs pass 94%. Our teachers, 93%. This is the first-time pass rate, which we think are outstanding. We place our students 90% of the time. Now, this means either they're in a job or they've gone on for further education, 90%. During these tough economic times, we have had unemployment rates that match the Idaho unemployment rate of our graduates, and we know this because we follow all our graduates. Those 700 graduates that graduated last May, we've contacted over 600 of them. We write them letters. They don't respond. We call them up. We ask them, what are you doing? How much are you being paid? Is it in the area that you want? Are you going back to school? 90% of them are doing either going back, furthering their education, or are employed. But more than that, we think the character of our students is important. And we do have a service component to our education. This last Monday was a holiday. 8 members of our baseball team, some of you who know Lewis Clark State College know we play baseball, 16 national championships. I had to say that, on Monday, when most students were out playing, our baseball team was downtown helping paint the new library. And every weekend, when they're not playing baseball, just about every weekend, they're doing volunteer service for something in the community. I can tell you, we are a member of the NAIA, not the NCAA, and the NAIA has a program called Champions of Character, and I guarantee you, developing character in our student athletes is a component of what we do. And if you look at the story that was in the Lewiston Tribune about the Monday service, you'll see pictures of our baseball team doing this kind of service. We collaborate with many institutions, St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center, Kootenai Health Center in Coeur d'Alene, North Idaho College, of course, a great partner, University of Idaho, Boise State. I add Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. You were talking about the yogurt company that just opened up, and what a vital role that plays, CSI plays in their development. Well, Schweitzer Engineering just opened up a new facility in Lewiston, employs 100 well-paying, has 100 well-paying jobs. They're going to expand it for another 100 well-paying jobs. If you know Ed Schweitzer, you know what kind of a quality company that is. They have approached us, and we will respond. They need an electronic engineering technology degree. They're going wanting. I think they have between 14 to 20 positions they cannot fill. We are going to develop a program for them. We are going to train electronic engineer technologists in a 2-year program, and a PTE program, and we're going to meet that need for one of the most important employers in our valley. And we do that for other employers because we do have that community college function at Lewis Clark State College. Although we're not in a taxing district, we have that function. Our outreach is fairly substantial. We have outreach centers in Coeur d'Alene, in Grangeville, and in Orofino. I'm going to talk mainly about our outreach center in Coeur d'Alene. As Dr. Dunlap indicated, we have about 500 students there, either online or face-to-face. And as you can see, this last fall, or these are the latest numbers, excuse me, we have well over 150 business majors and various other majors, as you can see in these numbers. But business and nursing and social work are probably our most important majors in that area. And I might also add, with professional technical education, we have a growing number of Associate of Applied Science students coming from North Idaho College going on and get their bachelor's degree of applied science from Lewis Clark State College. That's why we're asking for a joint facility in Coeur d'Alene. I know you're a policy-making group here and not a funding group, but we need to talk a little bit about what we're aiming for. And University of Idaho, North Idaho College, and LCSC, as one of their top capital requests. U of High has another request that they need, a science building, but second on that list for them, first for us, and probably high on the list for North Idaho College is a joint facility. Right now we're in portable facilities, and we're stretched to the limit. We really cannot get much bigger than we are now in Coeur d'Alene, but there is that demand. Outreach is in other areas. Our community programs has 210 non-credit courses, over 1,000 students reached. Workforce training, we've reached 3,600 students. This is the non-credit sort of training that was talked about earlier. Our Small Business Development Center has close to 300 client businesses that have worked with them. We continue to do a GED with our corrections facilities and others. And if you've ever been to a GED graduation ceremony, you know how important this is to some of those families. It's a little bit louder, a little bit more raucous than a college graduation ceremony, but we're proud to be able to help those individuals who need their high school equivalency in our area, and especially those in the corrections institutes, because that will reduce the recidivism of those folks. Distance education has been brought up several times. We do quite a bit of distance education at Lewis Clark State College. Most of it would be a Blackboard sort of a program. See if you can get that to fire up. I think if you, well, maybe it won't work. Oh, that's okay. Technology's not going to work here. But this Blackboard system is an excellent system, and if you were taking one of our finance courses, you would be taking it through Blackboard, and at any time at night you could fire up your computer and you could enter the Blackboard system, and you would have a demonstration that almost looks live for whatever lesson you were attempting to master that day. We have I think over 400 courses online and 6,000 enrolled in our online education. I'm going to finish up a little bit of budget, and then we'll just call it a day. Our revenue sources, you saw this from North Idaho College. Student fees, 29%, state appropriations, 32%. 10 years ago, state appropriations were well over 50%. I think you all know that. Federal grants, 16%. Contracts and grants, other contracts and grants, 12%. The majority of our support is through student fees and state appropriations. We rely on that. We're not part of a community college taxing district. We don't get those kinds of funds. The general fund outlook, As you can see, since 2009, it's gone down. We had a bump last year because thank you to the legislature for agreeing to support our occupancy costs for that new building I showed you. That accounts for the majority of that bump you see in our general fund appropriation last year. Thank you very much, those of you who supported that. There was a question about staff pay. Here is, Louis, an example of one portion, our faculty, one portion of our employees' pay compared to our peers. 16, not University of Idaho, not Boise State, not Idaho State research institutions, our peers, are instructional type institutions across the country. A four-year institutions, 16 of them are indicated as our peers. This would be like Dickinson State University in the Dakotas and schools like that. Notice that our pay is significantly lower than all of our peers in every category. And this is the average. This isn't the high. This is what we would need to come up to this level in order to get a C grade, to be average. This is a problem, and we have done everything that we can to bring up the pay of our faculty, our professional staff, and of course, our classified staff. But this gives you an idea. Is this a problem? Yes, it is, especially in recruiting. So anything, any support that can be given for all state workers, I should say, for CEC, we would appreciate because it would help us address this issue. Which brings us to our legislative requests, and I'll briefly go over them. Employee salaries, number one. Enrollment workload adjustment. This is, as you've seen, our enrollment's gone up. There is a formula that would allow us to receive some dollars over the last several years to account for that increased enrollment. We asked for inflation, and we had some capital equipment replacement costs, primarily information technology, electronic infrastructure. We had two other requests, actually one request. It was the Complete College Idaho request, which was a request for more positions to take care of our bottleneck courses at the lower division level. And as part of that, part of the state remediation and general education reform, we asked for some support for that. If you look at it, our line item requests, inflationary adjustments, replacement items, so non-discretionary adjustments in the Complete College Idaho. These are on in your books, and their descriptions are there. If you look at what the governor has recommended, he has recommended nearly $600,000 in EWA, which we are appreciative of, but no CEC, and none of the Complete College Idaho requests. I would add one thing, that if our requests were made, we would not ask for any tuition increases this year. We'll have to wait until we see what the budget looks like, and then we'll decide on tuition. So our general approach at LCSC is a long-term focus that is responsive to local and regional development. We have sustained our mission even in these hard times, and we're proud to be a member of the higher education system of Idaho, and we'll work together to continue our mission. We run a lean operation. You're probably looking at the entire administration behind me right now. We'd have no assistant deans, no assistant vice presidents. We run a lean operation, and we have been able to handle increased enrollment, increased costs, and decreased funding by running a lean operation, and we'll continue to do that. I will finish by showing this picture again. We used to have a football team. This is Lewis Clark State College versus Washington State University in 1898. We fought them to a 6-6 tie, which the Lewiston Tribune called the Championship of the Northwest. But notice the men in the background. That's our Steckel Sky Center right there. So Boise State's got nothing on us. But seriously, athletics is part of the college experience. And I talked about the Champions of Character program that we have. And we believe in that Champions of Character program. I have the next slide. Those baseball players give up their time. Some of them give up their spring break to do service to the community and in so many ways. We have 10 teams come to Lewiston every year from across the nation to play in the NAIA World Series. One of those students coming down the hill to Lewiston late at night from the Spokane airport saw the lights of Lewiston and the lights of Harris Field on because teams were practicing. And he said it was like the field of dreams to him as a student athlete to come to a championship like this at a location like Lewis Clark State College. We have 600 volunteers in the community that run that. We've done it for 21 years, and we're going to try to continue to do it for 21 more years. But that kind of experience that this student athlete had is the kind of experience we try to engender in our academic students. We're pretty successful on the baseball field, but we want to be successful on the academic and the professional technical field too. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you, and you're all invited. Come on to Lewiston this May, and I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you have.
President Fernandez, thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation. Committee, questions that you may have? Well, I'll start, President, if you don't mind. I'd like to go back just to see if I can understand a couple of different numbers in terms of enrollment.
Sure.
I look at the first slide, the bar chart, and it shows about 6,000
Yes.
there. And then a couple slides down, you say a total head count of enrollment of 4,500, roughly.
Yes, this is annual enrollment is the large number. The fall enrollment is the low number. So in the fall, we had 4,500 students. We will get more students this spring. We'll lose some students from the fall, but we'll get new students coming in this spring. So you add those new students for the total annual enrollment is about 6,000.
Okay. Another question, President. Pete, it looks like you've got a question. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, I can go later.
Okay. Like to understand, maybe drilling down on that a little bit further. You had 700 graduate. Now, when you say graduate, that's with their degree, either professional, technical, or an associate degree. How many of those went on to college? Do you have a sense of that? And then as I look at the total numbers, so let's assume we use the low number, the 4,500. So roughly you have about 1,000 in each class, a little over 1,000 in each class, so, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly. And about 700 of those 1,000 graduate. Am I looking at that correctly? Is that an accurate calculation?
Mr. Chairman, somewhat.
Okay.
It changes. Now, if you should look at all of this as kind of a pipeline, if you will. We start out with maybe 500 new freshmen, but we have many non-traditional students coming in during the year too. And then during that 4-year period before they graduate, we have some stop-outs. Students will stop. They will leave college for a year or two, work at Potlatch, not Potlatch, but Clearwater Paper or Schweitzer. Then they'll come back, So there's all sorts of inputs into this pipe. So yes, we'll start out with 400 traditional students or 500 traditional students coming in from the high schools, and then we graduate, as you said, 700. We haven't found some mysterious cold fusion process here. What we've got are different sorts of inputs all during that 4-year period. The graduation rate, that's why the graduation rate, which is only about between 25 and 30% for us, for that, that if you look at the cohort, doesn't tell the whole story. Because if you just took that 700 versus the students that come in, we've got more students graduating that came in. you see what, if you understand where I'm going. But we have various different inputs coming in. If I didn't thoroughly confuse you, I hope I didn't.
All right. Thank you, President. Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President, I got a question on the comparison of salaries.
Yeah.
Did that include a cost of living comparison from one area to another area? We enjoy probably a lower cost of living than many of those areas do. Was that in the mix in your formula in comparing salaries?
President?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nielsen, no. This is national data that comes from a national clearinghouse comparing us to our peers. You are right that this hasn't been adjusted, but here for the local cost of living. But here are some of the areas that we're talking about. Black Hills State University, Dickinson State, and those are in the Dakotas. Indiana University East, Mesa State in Arizona, Missouri Southern State, obviously in Missouri, Missouri Western, Purdue and Purdue University, smaller branch campus, Shawnee State in Ohio, University of Minnesota at Crookston. So if you looked at those sorts of colleges, and there's a couple of other, Kentucky State, Southern Arkansas, Montana State Northern is also in that mix. So no, there wasn't a cost of living adjustment. I know that that would make a difference, but I don't think it would be that big of a difference with the majority of those places that I've just mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I?
Go ahead, Representative.
That certainly modifies it. No question about that. Now, this is not just for Lewis and Clark colleges, but these are a couple of questions, if I may ask, Mr. Chairman. When they mention social workers, the people that go under those types of classes, is most of that for government employment, or is there degrees that are issued in social services where they go into private employment? President?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nielsen, I think the majority of them do go into government work, but some of them go into private, private firms that require those kinds of that kind of expertise for counseling and other purposes. But you're correct in assuming that the majority of the students will work with local or state agency social work programs and nonprofits. Yeah.
One more general question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been a matter of interest to me for a long time, and I'm probably going to reveal how, should we say, uninformed I am, or whatever you want to call it. But to me, it's been a mystery, other than for research, why your college, community colleges, can offer a quality education for less money than our universities. Why is that?
President?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nielsen, it's certainly not volume, I'll tell you that. It's, we are lean. Our teachers, though, do teach quite a bit more than at the research institution, and for a good reason. The faculty at a research institution are required to create new knowledge, and they need to spend quite a bit, and I know this because I was at the University of Wyoming as a faculty member. I was at the University of Hawaii as a faculty member, and I was required to do research and publish and come up with new knowledge. In this case, for plant diseases in the local agricultural industry, that takes time, and that takes you away from the face-to-face classroom teaching, and it is rather expensive. We did, and the University of Idaho, Dr. Nellis will tell you this, those faculty do bring in dollars. I brought in dollars to support that, but when you look at the bottom line of what it costs to run that kind of an institution, especially when you have some graduate programs there, it does cost a little bit more. But it is vital to the overall health of higher education and for a state to have that kind of research capability at the larger institutions, especially in agriculture and the land grant status of the University of Idaho. Pardon? Oh, yeah, and teaching loads. Teaching loads are heavier at our institution than they would be at a research institution. So in that case, we are more efficient. We are more focused on teaching than a research institution is, although we do a little bit of research because we wouldn't be a college if we didn't, but we don't do quite as much.
Just a follow-up on that. Then it makes a lot of sense to me to encourage our youth to take a community college or your college preparatory to go into the universities, because they can get their education either through concurrent credit or through these community colleges. You can get that associate's degree for a lot less money and then still take advantage of the other universities. And thank you. I appreciate that information.
Thank you. Representative Clow.
Mr. Chairman and President Fernandez, our country and state has suffered a lot of high unemployment in the past 4 to 5 years, and then you hear stories about unfilled positions around the country because we're not turning out the right education. What is Lewis and Clark State College and what is higher education doing to try and redirect students' focus on these unfilled positions that we hear from industry that they just can't fill?
President?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Clow, we're doing a couple of things, and different institutions are doing different things. First of all, we're listening to industry. I gave you the example of Schweitzer Engineering asking us because they have these unfilled positions, and right now we're not training individuals that could fit that. The community colleges do a great job, as you've heard from the presidents from the community colleges, at meeting the needs of those of that industry. Now, it's not just the graduates in bachelor's and associate's degrees we're talking about, though, when it's Lewis Clark State College or the College of Southern Idaho. We do offer those non-credit certificates to meet some of that need. But what are we doing to the students to try to encourage them to go into those areas? Well, we do advise them early on, if they're going into a particular area, to give them a realistic idea of what the employment opportunities would be in that area as best as we know. And if we don't know, we ask industry to provide us that information. Do we do it in every case, and we do it accurately in every case? Well, nobody bats 1,000, not even on our baseball team. But we do try. We do try to give that information to our students. Now, here is an issue, though, that I want to bring up. We have lots of individuals who start, and I'm sure the College of Southern Idaho, College of Western Idaho, and North Idaho College, and even the Boise State and Idaho State will tell you this. Somebody will, and University of Idaho, a freshman will come in and wants to be an electronic engineer or a nuclear engineer, and they are gung-ho to do it, and then they run into their first real math course, and I mean college-level mathematics. And this happens all the time. They can't, they run into a wall, and they cannot pass or get a good grade in a college-level math course, and so they switch majors to something that does not require that level of math. Now, I know that happens all the time. Boise State University, I know, is starting a program to mother hen those kinds of students that are having that kind of trouble. We're going to try to do that in various ways with different students, to follow them as they're going through and give them the help they need just in time, if you will. So we're aware of what's going on, and that sort of thing. Name any other discipline that has that kind of crunch course, or gatekeeping course, some people call it. We know that would happen. You don't want them to go into engineering without having those mathematics skills, for example. You don't want them to go into nursing without having the physiology and anatomy skills that are necessary. So we do run into that. Nursing's another good example. We have quite a few pre-nursing students, but some of them just cannot pass that anatomy and physiology. And some of them maybe aren't maybe it'd be better to go into a different area. Well, that's a certainty with some, and we try to help them out too.
Thank you. Representative Bateman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, President, we're all concerned about the increased costs of higher education, and public education as far as that's concerned. And of course, one of the criticisms has been that they're really heavy on bureaucracy and the number of employees in relation to the number of students. I know in public schools, we've gone from, in the last few years, from 57 employees per 1,000 students to 127 employees per 1,000 students. Mm-hmm. But the criticism is especially strong, I think, in higher ed. I notice you have 6,000 students and 1,000 employees. That's one employee for every 6 students. Is that the proper level? Have you done all you can with regards to efficiencies and staffing your college? Is there some way we can become more efficient in the area of support staff? And that is a criticism. I'm sure you're aware of that.
President?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Bateman, I wouldn't use that 1,000 figure. That's all of our soft money figures. That would be, let me give you the breakdown.
That was public schools I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
Public schools.
Well, we have 1,000.
1,000 employees.
Yeah, 1,000 employees. Well, of those, you need to know that the faculty, we have 173, and a class of, fully half of that number are the working number of employees on our campus, because we have a lot of irregular help, and the AmeriCorps, for example, has employees across the state that aren't directly related. That's a grant-funded operation that aren't directly related to our enterprise in educating students. So it's a little bit misleading to look at that 1,000 figure for LCSC. We have 150 professional staff at LCSC, 136 classified staff, 173 faculty, full-time faculty, and 92 adjunct faculty. If you add those up, that's the number we're talking about. All right? Okay, I'm glad to bring that up because I agree. That would be quite a few faculty. Yes.
Representative Gideas.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of information for our committee, LCSC does a great job with their social work program. My daughter-in-law graduated there, and also through their collaborative effort with BSU was able to get her master's. And in referring to the question Representative Clow brought up about, staffing so many jobs that are out there that are empty and don't have trained folks, social workers are one of those areas where the federal government has come in now, and almost every medical program in the country now needs some form of a social worker, whether it be for a hospice program, home health program, kidney dialysis program. Those people coming out of this program at LCSC can pretty much write their own ticket. It's been amazing to see. Also, I did have a question for you, President. Could you please speak to the deferred maintenance of your university? Some of our older universities really suffer as opposed to some of our newer ones. And I know you have some wonderful old buildings on that campus. I'd like to know the dollar amount, please.
President?
Is that it? Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman and Representative Gideas, yes, 1893. That building was built in 1895. It's pretty old. The building that I'm in was in the administration building that business division is in. That's a very 1920s. And several buildings on our campus, 1920s. We're proud of the new buildings, but we do have old buildings. We are probably $25 million in repairs total to bring everything up to snuff, to bring it up to regulations and get rid of the asbestos and put in new HVAC. I mean, if you've been in my office, come to my office during the wintertime and listen to those pipes bang. Yeah, we've got an old boiler that warms up the office either to 90 degrees or not at all. So that's okay. I put in a requisition for a bearskin coat, and I'll be fine. But it is a problem that has been deferred over the years, and it's one of those things at all of our institutions that have older buildings that we're going to need to. Some of our areas are held together with baling wire, but I need to say that Public Works, the DPW, has been more than helpful to LCSC and all of our, we don't have a large separate administration to take care of payroll or to take care of our public works jobs that need to be done. And I want to take time here to thank DPW for all the work they've done for LCSC. And for that matter, all the work that the state has done for our payroll. You asked how efficient, why we're so efficient. That's one reason. We utilize the state agencies quite a bit. But we do have that bill that we will need to meet for deferred maintenance over the next few years.
Excellent. Any other questions, committee?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
You may.
Maybe you need to switch from baling wire to duct tape.
All right. Well, President, thank you again for taking the time, as well as your staff, to be here with us today and to share what's going on, as well as your vision for the future. We so appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the committee for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, committee, if there's nothing else at this time to be brought up, we will move and be adjourned till tomorrow. Thank you.